Johnny Carson opened his desk drawer. He pulled out an envelope. He signaled Doc to stop the music. And he said, "Tonight, I'm not going to do comedy." February 8, 1972. Studio 6B. NBC Burbank. The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. Tuesday night. The usual 300 audience members filed into their seats expecting what they always got: Johnny's monologue, a few celebrity guests, maybe a comedy sketch, Doc Severinsen's band playing them out at midnight. America needed the laughs. The Vietnam War was grinding into its 7th year. The evening news showed body counts every night. Walter Cronkite's solemn voice reading casualty numbers that climbed higher each week. The war had divided the country. Protests in the streets, families torn apart over dinner table arguments, young men fleeing to Canada or coming home in flag-draped coffins. But at 11:30 p.m., Johnny Carson made people forget for an hour. He was the ritual. The comfort. The reliable voice that said goodnight to America before they went to sleep. Whatever chaos existed in the world, Johnny would be there behind that desk, making it bearable. Tonight was supposed to be no different. Johnny walked onto the stage to applause. Ed McMahon boomed his introduction. "Here's Johnny!" The band played the familiar theme. Johnny waved, adjusted his tie, sat behind his wooden desk, and picked up his blue cue cards for the monologue. But something was different. The audience couldn't quite identify it. Maybe it was the way Johnny's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. Maybe it was the slight pause before he started talking. Maybe it was the way he glanced at his desk drawer, just once, quickly, before launching into his first joke. The monologue started normally enough. A joke about Nixon. A joke about the weather. The audience laughed on cue. Ed chuckled from his seat. Doc grinned from the bandstand. Then, 3 minutes in, Johnny stopped mid-sentence. He put down his cue cards. He looked at the camera, not the way he usually did, with that familiar twinkle and raised eyebrow. This was different. This was direct. Serious. "Folks," Johnny said, his voice quieter than usual, "I need to do something tonight that I don't normally do." The audience fell silent. Ed shifted in his seat, concerned. Johnny reached down and opened his desk drawer. He pulled out a white envelope. Not a prop. Not part of a bit. A real envelope, slightly crumpled, with a military postmark visible on the corner. He held it up. "This afternoon, a man came to the studio," Johnny said. "A military chaplain. He asked if I would read something on the air tonight. And I told him I would." Carson stopped mid-monologue. The entire studio froze. The control room erupted in confusion. Director Bobby Quinn leaned into his microphone. "Johnny, what are you doing? This isn't in the script." Producer Fred de Cordova stood behind Bobby, hand on his shoulder. "Let him go," Fred said quietly. "Keep rolling." Johnny set the envelope on his desk. He didn't open it yet. Instead, he looked directly into the camera. 3 weeks ago, a young man from Des Moines, Iowa, was killed in Vietnam. His name was Private First Class Michael Harrison. He was 19 years old. The audience was completely still. Not a cough. Not a whisper. 300 people barely breathing. "Before he died," Johnny continued, his voice steady but strained, "Michael wrote a letter to his family. His mother received it yesterday. And she asked the chaplain to bring it to me. She wanted me to read it on television. She wanted America to hear her son's last words." Ed McMahon's hand moved to his mouth. Doc Severinsen lowered his trumpet. The band members looked at each other uncertainly. Johnny picked up the envelope. His hands were shaking slightly. He opened it carefully, pulling out 2 sheets of paper covered in handwriting, the kind of handwriting taught in Iowa public schools, neat and careful and young. "I'm going to read this exactly as Michael wrote it," Johnny said. "And I'm asking Doc and the band to stay quiet. No music. And I'm asking everyone in the audience to just listen." He cleared his throat. And he began to read. Dear Mom, Dad, and Jenny. To understand what happened next, you need to understand who Michael Harrison was. Michael grew up in Des Moines. Middle-class family. Father worked at an insurance company. Mother was a substitute teacher. Younger sister Jenny was still in high school. They lived in a modest house on a tree-lined street where everyone knew everyone else's name. Michael had graduated from Lincoln High School in 1970. Not at the top of his class, but solid. He'd played baseball. Second base, decent hitter, better fielder. He'd worked part-time at a grocery store. He'd had a girlfriend named Sarah who cried when he got his draft notice. He tried to go to college to get a deferment, but the money wasn't there. His draft number came up in January 1971. By March, he was in basic training. By July, he was in Vietnam. His letters home were frequent at first, describing the heat, the rain, the strange food, the guys in his unit who became his brothers. He tried to keep things light. He knew his mother worried. He knew his father hid the newspaper on mornings when casualty reports ran on the front page. But as the months went on, the letters changed. Shorter. Less detailed. More careful about what he revealed. The last few letters before this one had been almost formulaic. I'm okay. Miss you all. Tell Sarah I'm thinking about her. Love, Mike. This letter, the one Johnny Carson now held, was different. Michael had written it on January 15, 1972. 3 days before he died. He'd been on patrol in the jungle near the DMZ when his unit had come under fire. During a brief lull, he'd pulled out a piece of paper and written frantically, as if he knew time was running out. The chaplain who brought the letter to Johnny had explained this to him privately. The letter was in his pocket when they found him, the chaplain had said, his voice hollow. He never got to mail it. But it was finished. Like he needed to get it all out. Johnny read, Dear Mom, Dad, and Jenny. If you're reading this, then I guess I didn't make it home. I'm sorry. I know how much that's going to hurt you, and I'm so sorry I can't be there to help you through it. Johnny's voice cracked slightly. He paused, composed himself, continued, I want you to know that I wasn't alone when it happened. I was with my brothers, the guys in my unit. They're good men. The best men I've ever known. If I had to be anywhere in the world right now, I'd want to be with them. So don't think I was scared or lonely. I wasn't. The camera stayed locked on Johnny's face. Tears were beginning to form in his eyes, but his voice stayed steady, giving Michael's words the dignity they deserved. Mom, I need you to do something for me. I need you to forgive yourself for not being able to protect me. I know you, Mom. I know you're going to think you should have done something different, should have found a way to keep me home. But you couldn't. Nobody could. This is bigger than us. So please, please don't carry that guilt. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. In the studio, the silence was absolute. The audience sat motionless. Many were crying. Ed McMahon had tears streaming down his face, not even trying to hide them. Doc Severinsen had set his trumpet down completely, and was gripping the back of a chair. Johnny continued reading. Dad, I want you to know that everything you taught me mattered. You showed me how to be a man, not by being tough all the time, but by being kind even when it's hard. You showed me that honor isn't about winning. It's about showing up and doing what's right even when it costs you something. I tried to do that here. I hope I made you proud. Johnny stopped. He lowered the letter for a moment, looking down at his desk, gathering himself. When he looked back up, his eyes were red. Jenny, he read, his voice softer now. By the time you read this, you'll probably be graduating high school. I'm so sorry I won't be there. I'm sorry I won't get to embarrass you by crying in the audience like Dad did at my graduation. I'm sorry I won't get to meet whatever guy you end up bringing home, and I'm sorry I won't get to give him the big brother speech about treating you right. He paused again, longer this time. But Jenny, I need you to promise me something. Don't let this break you. Don't let my death make you hard or angry at the world. Keep being exactly who you are, the girl who leaves notes in my lunch bag, the girl who laughs at terrible jokes, the girl who believes people are basically good. The world needs more people like you. Don't let it steal that. The letter continued. Michael wrote about his girlfriend Sarah, asking his father to make sure she knew he'd been thinking about her at the end. He wrote about his baseball coach from high school, asking Jenny to tell him that the lessons about teamwork and sacrifice had mattered more than any game they'd ever won. He wrote about his best friend Tommy, asking his parents to check on Tommy's mother sometimes because Tommy was over here too and his mom was alone. And then came the final paragraph. Johnny's hands were shaking visibly now. His voice was barely above a whisper, but the microphone caught every word. I don't know if what we're doing here matters. I don't know if we're winning or losing or if those words even mean anything anymore. What I do know is that the guys next to me matter. Taking care of them matters. Making sure they get home to their families matters. If I died doing that, then it wasn't for nothing. Tell America I don't hate them for sending me here. Tell them I understand it's complicated and confusing and nobody really knows what the right answer is. Just please, make sure it's worth it. Make sure all of us who didn't come home, make sure we didn't die for something America is going to forget about in a few years. Remember us. That's all I ask. Just remember that we were here, and we tried, and we loved our country even when it was hard. I love you all so much. Mike. Johnny set the letter down on his desk with trembling hands. He looked directly into the camera. Tears were running freely down his face now. Johnny Carson, who never cried on television, who maintained perfect composure through every interview, every sketch, every moment of his career. Michael Harrison was 19 years old. Johnny said, his voice thick. He liked baseball. He worked at a grocery store. He had a girlfriend named Sarah and a little sister named Jenny who put notes in his lunch bag. He picked up the letter again, holding it carefully. His mother wanted me to read this because she didn't want her son to be just a number. Just another casualty statistic in tomorrow's newspaper. She wanted America to know that Michael was a real person. That every single number we hear on the news represents someone like Michael. Someone's son. Someone's brother. Someone who liked baseball and had a girlfriend and wrote letters home. Backstage, he made a choice no producer would have ever allowed. Johnny stood up from his desk. The camera operators adjusted frantically to follow him. He walked to the edge of the stage, still holding Michael's letter. I'm going to do something I've never done, Johnny said. I'm going to ask everyone in this studio, and everyone watching at home, to stand up for a moment of silence. Not for politics. Not for the war. Just for Michael. And for every other Michael who didn't come home. The audience stood immediately. 300 people rising as one. Ed stood. Doc and the entire band stood. In the control room, Bobby and Fred and every technician and cameraman stood. Across America, in living rooms from coast to coast, 30 million people stood up from their couches and chairs. Johnny bowed his head. The studio lights stayed on. Warm tungsten illumination across a stage that had seen Johnny perform thousands of monologues but had never seen this. Television as a cathedral. Late-night comedy transformed into a national memorial service. 60 seconds of silence. No music. No applause. Just stillness. When Johnny raised his head, he carefully folded Michael's letter and placed it in his jacket pocket. Thank you, he said quietly. Please sit down. The audience sat. Nobody made a sound. Johnny walked back to his desk but didn't sit. He stood behind it, one hand resting on the wooden surface. We're not doing comedy tonight, he said. We're going to end the show here. Go home. Hug your families. And remember Michael Harrison. He looked at the camera one last time. Good night, America. The screen went black. No credits. No music. Just silence. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. The next morning, NBC received over 40,000 phone calls. The network received 200,000 letters in the following week. All of them said the same thing: "Thank you for letting us grieve together." Johnny kept Michael's letter in his desk drawer for the remaining 20 years of his show. He never mentioned it again on air, but colleagues said he would sometimes open the drawer and read it before difficult shows. When Johnny retired in 1992, he donated the letter to the Smithsonian with one request: display it next to a folded American flag. Today they sit together in the museum, a reminder of the night when television stopped entertaining and started healing. Michael Harrison's name is on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Panel 01W, line 122. His mother visited every year until she passed away in 2003. His sister Jenny still goes every Memorial Day. She brings a baseball.